What is going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, back again with another live stream for you guys on Christmas Eve. I hope you're all going to have a very Merry Christmas, and I hope a Happy New Year ahead for everyone watching the stream today. Joining me, not in the studio, unfortunately, Ben is away for Christmas, so we've got the brilliant, the fantastic, the always available Mr. Brian Daigle. How are we doing, Brian?
How can I not be in a fantastic place after an introduction like that, Simeon, brother? Always a pleasure to be on the channel. Always a pleasure to be ready at hand to support you guys and be with you and the wonderful chat. So Merry Christmas, like you said. Let's have some fun on the stream.
Fantastic. And if it's funny, if you look at the thumbnail, the thumbnail promos that we have for the streams, obviously Ben has like a bit of facial hair and no hair now. So now when you come on, it's not so dissimilar for the fans anymore. So they don't have to have a readjustment. It's all right, isn't it?
It's just replacing Phil Mitchell for Grant Mitchell. That's all you're doing, basically. That's all you're basically doing nowadays. The We Are Tottenham TV equivalent.
Brilliant stuff, Brian. How's your last few days been digesting what happened on Sunday? Which was, hard for a lot of fans to take. But you feeling better about things at the moment, or have had a few days to calm down?
You know what it is now. Thank God I work and have a job, so I have to be in work, and it takes my mind off it rather than not being in a job and seeing what streams are on, so I can come on and just regurgitate the same thing. Listen, it was an awful performance. Really bad result, and we're in a really bad time at the moment, but let's hope we can end the year positively, and things have got to turn. Listen, it can't get much worse at the moment, can it?
But more importantly, Brian, I think everyone wants to know, will you be watching the second season of Squid Game? That is the most important question.
Well, I didn't watch the first one, and now because of what we've done, I certainly won't be watching the second. So no
Squid Game. All right.
No Squid Game.
So in this stream, we've got a nice action-packed stream for everyone out there. We're going to be doing a bit of a Tottenham update to start the stream off. We've got the preview of the Forest game since Ange's done his press conference today. And then we're going to end the stream reacting to some comments with Brian reacting to some of the lovely comments that you left him after the Liverpool game, which we'll get Brian to react to. So let's just welcome people in the chat at the moment. We've got Cheap Charlie saying goalkeepers need to go. Goalkeepers. Vicario's injured. What's he done wrong? Danny Bismovsky. Actually, I can get them up. Yeah, Danny Bismovsky says Forster has let 9 goals in 2 games. 5 were his fault. 5 of the 9 in the last 2 games are his fault. That's a bit harsh, isn't it? 2 of them against United, I agree. Actually, I guess 3 of them. You could really say the third one as well, actually. Was he at fault for 2 goals on Sunday?
I think I'm trying to recollect it. You just asked me, have I digested it? Now we're regurgitating it. I think he could have done better with at least one of them, from what I can remember. At least one. But you know what it is?
You know what it is with Forster? I feel like some of the goals, like for example, some of the ones he conceded on Sunday, like you don't look at them thinking, oh, that's a bad mistake. But also, there's a few of them you're probably thinking, I think Vicario saves 1 or 2 of those goals.
You're right, but also you look at it, and he's been up until that United game, he'd been brilliant. In all honesty, in every single game, probably man of the match in all of them. Maybe not one, but a majority of them. And people were waiting to jump on him and go, oh, my God. And don't get me wrong, when Vicario was injured, I went mad saying, oh, no, it's Fraser, here we go. And he's proved me wrong and shut me up, which fair play to him. But I look at the United goals, and yes, they were his fault, but why do we keep giving the ball back to him? We know he can't use his feet. We know he can't do it. Yeah, we did that. He should still be able to do better, but it's going to happen, isn't it? Every goal that, like you said, I think a lot of it goes down to, oh, yeah, Vicario would have saved that.
I agree. All right. Danny says the one that went through his legs. I mean, that one actually I don't put on him because he was 1-on-1. Like, what are you supposed to, if a player is 1-on-1 with the keeper, you blame the defence more than the keeper for not saving a 1-on-1, albeit it did go through his legs. Like, I don't blame that one specifically.
The one I actually thought was more his fault, personally, but I've only seen it once in the replays. I haven't watched match today or anything after. I think it was it their second goal or the second goal where he kind of did
Where
the start jump out.
McAllister, yeah.
Yeah, the header. He should. Listen,
I agree. I thought he reacted late to it.
Yeah, and obviously he's not the fastest, but McAllister isn't the tallest. I thought he should have done better with that one more than the one that Danny said. But I can see why Danny's saying the one through the legs as well. But we were wide open, weren't we, for a lot of the goals?
I even thought the first one, I know it's a good cross from Trent and the good header from Diaz. But no, it's a great goal. But I also think I watched it back and I'm like, I think Vicario gets to that. Like, I don't like it's a good header, but it wasn't like unstoppable. I think someone with a bit more flexibility will probably get to it. Forest will thump us, says Chirpy Wiggins. We will concede. Martin H says we'll concede at least 2, probably 3, no matter who plays. All right. Welcome everyone, of course, to the stream. Let's get on to a Tottenham update to start things off. And the first thing in the Tottenham update we're going to be talking about is Ange Postecoglou and some of his comments in the press conference. He was asked about Tottenham needing reinforcements in January. He said, it's fair to say we are a little bit short in a couple areas and we will need to reinforce in January, which is no surprise. He did say earlier, a few months ago, that in January they'll reassess where the squad is at and we'll see if we'll need to reinforce. And it looks like he's moving in the direction of we definitely do need some reinforcements given the injury crisis. He also said reinforcement, like I said a while ago, we've been planning. A lot of it was going to be around where we're at this time. Fair to say we're a little bit short in a couple of areas and we need to reinforce. But January is a trickier in terms of what sort of players who we can bring in. For us, ideal for any club, I guess, you want to bring in people who are going to make you stronger. I think the fact, obviously, we're still in a Carabao Cup semi-final, still got Europe, FA Cup, we're all in this we're on all competitions. It's not like our schedule is going to ease up at any stage. So I think it makes sense. We'll try and reinforce where and what number. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, last January, cast your mind back to, obviously we needed a centre-back desperately and we did spend 30 million bringing in Radu Dragushin. We needed a forward. We ended up getting Timo Werner on loan. So we do know January is a trickier window than the summer, especially this year as well. Ange mentioned in his press conference how this season also it's even more tricky than usual because there are some years where there are teams who are out of Europe by this stage and, looking to offload some players to decrease the wage bill. But this season, with European football going into January, it's even less likely that some of the top teams are going to want to thin out their squads in the second half of the season because they've still got European games to contend with. So that's another added element as to why January is going to be even more difficult. Obviously, I'm sure you probably agree with Ange and we need reinforcements, but where would you prioritise those reinforcements?
Before we go on to where we need them, Stephen, just to address some of the comments Ange said. When he goes, we need those reinforcements, we said we're assessing where we were in January. I don't think anyone at Tottenham Hotspur thought going into January, bottom half of the table, massive injury issues, and all the things that have happened. So the numbers need to be brought in. Now it comes down to, we were hearing in the build-up beforehand that not a lot of money will be about in January. The normal spiel that we hear from this football club. I think we're at a time now where they need to push the boat out. I don't mean go break the bank 80, 90 million pound players. They need genuine quality. And we need both quality and numbers for strength in depth. I think one of the great things we got, and again, like I did last season, I said I'm judging this whole window not on the amount of money we spend, but on speed that players come in. Because we need them desperately. We've got a semi-final, like you said. Whether they'll be ready for Liverpool, the first leg is a big question mark. We got the filth. We got there's some big Europe, which they won't be able to register.
Two big games now. Those 2 big games in Europe as well.
I think the big thing about this is, and I don't know why it's happened this year, but it's a saving grace for us, is that the second leg is in February. Because the last time we were here, like we were speaking about after the United game, the Chelsea game was the last semi-final, and were a week or 10 days apart. So we've got some saving grace in the second leg of that semi-final. But yeah, players need to come in. I mean, you asked at the beginning, where do I think we need? Left back, without a shadow of a doubt. I think that's the number one position for me that we need some real help for destiny and not just putting Spence left, right, left, right. I think we need another centre-back. Everyone will say number 6, but we know Ange doesn't really play with a 6. And we need a winger that can deliver exceptional and regular ammunition to Dominic Solanke, in my opinion.
I agree with all of that. Obviously, we're not. I don't think we're going to spend big money on 4 separate players in January. We'll be lucky to get one or two, I would say. So if you know, given that we have to pick and choose, where do you prioritise where we go? If I only offer you two of those positions, where are you prioritising?
Well, the fact that Ben Davies will come back, whether you like him or not, he's been very good until he got his hamstring. If I had to, out of the positions I mentioned, I'd probably go left back on a winger.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
I'd agree. I'd also go with a defender, maybe a player who can kind of play centre back / left back, and also a player in the forward line. I just think we need that extra quality, especially with Odegaard. Yeah. We don't know if we're going to see him again, especially at full fitness this season. So we can't. Yes, he might be back in February or whatever, but can we rely on him even when he's back? He's come back already and been injured. And on top of that, he's only 19, so he's even going to make the impact we need him to make when he gets back. So I kind of feel like we can't even look at Odegaard as a proper option right now. We need to get another winger on top of him. Now, yeah, I think it's very, very difficult in January to get good quality players. The question is, like, for a defender, do we get a stopgap kind of player? There's rumours of people like Ben Godfrey on loan, who's from Atalanta, who's obviously a player who knows the Premier League and he's English. Obviously, it also gets a bit more complicated as well, given the fact that whoever we sign, how do we register them for Europe? Because we can't even register Jed Spence right now, who's in the squad, and he can't be registered for Europe because of the lack of places. So, again, are we going to go back to trying to get a homegrown player back in the squad? And that leaves basically, do we go for a short-term deal for like Kyle Walker-Peters? Do we maybe go for a loan deal for like Marcus Edwards, and then we can register for the Europe? Or do we just go and say, look, we're going to sign these players, but we're just going to leave them out European squad and just have them play in the Premier League?
I mean, this is the conundrum we find ourselves in, isn't it? I mean, for me, like we said, if we're only saying, like we said, 2 players, I'd want us to go for ready-made, not youth or short-term deals. If we're going to go for 2, you got Hjuk, sorry if I pronounced it right or wrongly. He's in now, but we can't put any expectations on him whatsoever just arriving. And it'd be wrong to put everything on him. If we're going to go for a winger, and listen, we when it comes to the winger, we need someone that can guarantee regular ammunition to Dominic Solanke, like a proper winger that can bring in delivery, excellent delivery as his key attributes. They don't come cheap. They don't come cheap. And I don't want a stopgap to say, oh, we'll see it till then, because we've done that before. So I would hope we push the boat out, but then you add that extra layer that you've just put on about the homegrown issue in the European. You can juggle it. Is it in February after the qualifications? The last 2 games?
Yeah, you can change. If let's say, well, hopefully, if we're into the top 8, we won't be playing again until March.
Yeah.
So I think you can rejig it, but I don't think. I don't know how we rejig it unless we leave someone out. Like maybe we'll leave out Timo Werner. We leave him out the squad and we'll put the new signing in. Like we're going to have to. If rejigging it means taking out players who are already in there. And is he going to take out Forster? He's made it pretty clear that he thinks it was a good decision at this point to leave Forster in, given the injury to Vicario. I don't know who he leaves out because we got. I mean, he can't even leave out any. He can't leave out Austin or Whiteman because all that does is shrink the squad even more. Yep. I mean, the only other one would be maybe Ben Davies, but, don't think we can leave him out right now. So I don't know. I don't see. It's going to be difficult. Maybe it's just a case of either he leaves out Werner, I think, who he clearly at the moment, there seems to be something going on between those two and he's not happy with him. Or could we even cancel his loan somehow? Maybe that's something we can look into, explore. Or is it just a case of if we do sign a player, Brian, and we just say we're going to sign him, obviously he could be a long-term player, but unfortunately just for these 6 months while we sort the squad out, he's just going to have to be left out of the European squad. But it does mean that he'll be playing Premier League, and also means that we can adjust those minutes. We can still kind of manage people's minutes now in Premier League and Europa League, even though he's not going to be in the Europa League squad. Is that an acceptable situation?
Well, the thing is, like we were just saying as well, if we sign a winger, and obviously these are all if buts, maybe you would automatically assume, okay, that's a like-for-like replacement with Werner, wouldn't you? With everything going on, you think, right, that's the easy one. It's where else it comes. But then you also look at it. Will you sign a player if he says, right, well, listen, we're in Europe, but we're not going to put you in the European squad for the rest of the season? Is a player of high quality or a standard first team standard going to go, yeah, I'll come and sit out Europe for 6 months? It's there's a lot of juggling to be done with this squad for January and for Europe. Please God that we're in the next round, or we will do, but whether it's a playoff or not. So there's a lot of juggling to be done, isn't there?
100%. And it's going to be interesting to see how Ange manages to do that and who we kind of prioritise in this window. But I completely agree with him. We definitely need reinforcements, and the squad is clearly running on empty at the moment. So let's see what business can be done. And also Pete O'Rourke, who's I think he's Footy Insider, but he's a just journalist. He has also said that Ange Postecoglou retains the full support from key members of the Tottenham board, even with Spurs entering the festive period in the bottom half of the table. And for you, is that the right course of action for the time being?
Listen, there's a lot of debate about this right now. And I understand both parts of it. I've said all along I've never turned on a manager, and I'm not starting now. But I must admit, at the moment, with a lot of the reason, substantial, or not substantial, probably 50% of where I am with why I want Ange to stay is I don't want to do another manager merry-go-round. Now, some people are saying, well, that's a stupid way to look at it. We could get a manager that could be better suited to this team. I understand that, and partially I agree with it, but we've done that before, and then 18 months later we're in the same place. You look at it, we've got players.
Who is this mythical manager who's better suited to this team?
This is the thing, Sim. When you look at it, the way I've looked, you just got to look at the fullbacks over the last few managers. You just look. We've bought fullbacks to play in a back four, then brought in a back five manager who plays them as wing backs and can't play it. Then we go back to a back four manager and play the wing backs that were meant to be wing backs at fullbacks, and they're struggling in the. Listen. I understand both sides of the argument. I really do, because if you base this on results, if you base this on form, if you base this on tactics, right now it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good if you're looking at things, and I think going into Christmas, the first manager since Harry Redknapp to be in the bottom half, that's not a good look. No matter who you are, who the manager, it's not a good look.
But let's say we were to change the manager tomorrow. Does he get results out of this with the squad in the state that it is? Is he all of a sudden going to be able to turn it around with the kind of state of our defence right now? Does he get a result on Sunday like Ange did? Like I don't think much changes. I think. One of the benefits, if you're looking at this in a short-term view of like, we're 11th, it's not good enough, we need to, like, any manager would be in a better position, then the reason you would change manager right now is to get a bit of a short-term uplift so we can kind of start competing and getting that European places again. I just believe a new manager right now doesn't improve the immediate situation. So I don't see how that benefits Spurs, and also see that for me, when I've seen enough from this team when we are good and when we are in good form and everyone's fit and we have options to kind of rotate the team, that there is something to build towards and there is something to look at and say, actually, we are very good when we're on form. It's not like when we're playing well, it's not like when we're winning games, we're just to win, we're winning games where we don't deserve to win and like we're getting lucky. No, we're battering teams and we're playing very well. So for me, that's enough to hang my hat on and say, well, can we get back to that form? Can we see that a bit more consistently? And can basically when we get the squad back, is it likely or is there a chance we can see that football more consistently? And I'm willing to wait it out rather than say, we've got this injury crisis and we're in terrible form, so let's just bin the manager. When if we get we've even seen it's not maybe analogous properly, but like Ten Hag got sacked and Amorim's come in. I'm not saying it was the wrong decision to sack Ten Hag and bring Amorim in, but I'm just saying they haven't gotten any short-term benefit from it, have they? Their form has continued to be very, very poor. And yes, maybe in the long term they'll benefit from it, but right now they're not, and they might have to finish the season in 13th because they've changed the manager mid-season. And because they've gone in this direction where they're going on a new new project. Now, Tottenham starting this new process and project mid-season, is that a clever thing to do when we already play good football when we're at our best? So let's just, I think we should just there's a sticky patch right now. It's tough. We got to ride through this storm and see where we come out the other side. That's where I see it.
So basically, first of all, let's try and break this down in the order. First of all, when it comes to a new manager, Manchester United went and got Amorim, paid the compensation, got him over the line, dealt with it quickly. Do I believe that if Spurs were, not that I want them to, but if Spurs were to sack Ange, Spurs will will pay compensation and get a manager out of the club? No, I don't. No, I don't. They'll go for a Graham Potter or a Gareth Southgate, someone who's out of work and they can bring in because they won't pay the compensation, or will the manager want to come to Spurs? So you never know. So that's one reason. You mentioned about when the squad comes back, and we have a lot of injuries. We have a hell of a lot that you can't ignore. But one of the things I will say is, how long is it till one of them pick up another injury with the demands of our game? Or it's been hamstring injuries, it's muscle injuries that keep reoccurring and happening. How long can we keep players fit?
I take that point, but let's say a lot of people saying, "Oh, let's get Iraola, right? Iraola, let's get him." He's second to Tottenham when it comes to the running stats. He's right up there as well. Like, is he going to be any less demanding than Ange Postecoglou on this team? Is he going to say, "Actually, you can run less," when his team demands that you run a lot? Like, is that going to improve things?
Yeah, you're right. But you know the other thing as well. I mean, my number one was that if it was to happen, my number one would be the number one before Ange came, and that's Thomas Frank. I think he's absolutely exceptional. I really, really love him. But going back on it as well, you with Ange Postecoglou, what I've noticed as well with this fan base is, and it's become a big problem, is you can't criticise anything that goes wrong. If you criticise something that went wrong, or you think maybe you should drop deeper, or it's like you're saying, he's out, he's shit, he's great. You can't. We've come to a point with Ange Postecoglou where you can't critique him without people saying, right, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know Ange. But watch, the stats aren't looking great. I want him to succeed. I still think there's a positive. If he gets the players he needs in January, I'm holding on for dear life that he can turn this round and take us there. And like I said, I don't want to go through another managerial project. I can't do it. I can't keep doing this every 2 years. We need to stick with the manager. But I also understand lots of people probably in the comments, or will hear this after, "Oh my God, Brian, what more stats do you need?" Sava brings loads of stats up, and he's right with all of them. He is, whether you agree with Sava or not, what he brings up are stats. But like I said, I can then go on the stats with the managers we've had, the managers that have failed, the managers that have come, the styles of play, and I just can't do it anymore. But it's not looking rosy at Spurs, and I just hope. I think we need to analyse this again after the next two games, when the new year comes in. Like, don't get me wrong, if we have 2 wins and we have a good January, things could turn around. But people have also got to realise, if we lose the next 2 games, it could be the exact opposite, and pressure will severely mount. So I think Spurs fans at the moment are in a rock and a hard place.
I think that's a consequence of how tight the table is, isn't it? 2 wins and we're 4 points. Well, right now we're 4 points off 5th. 2 wins, all of a sudden, you could be in 5th, and then 2 losses, you're in 13th, and that's how tight the table is. And so that's why I'm not interested right now in kind of snapshots in time, in terms of right now. Yeah, Sava can bring up all these stats, and as you say, those stats are valid. But for me, I think the context of those stats are, look how we are doing compared to other managers that we've sacked before, right? But I think we have to look at this in a different way. First of all, you could argue whether was it right to sack all those managers, whether you can make that argument or not. But we decided to sack those managers when we did. But we're doing this the way we're going in right now. What we're trying to do with Ange Postecoglou is something different, and I think we've got to look at it in a different way, rather than we're in poor form and we're in this position in the table, so that's not good enough. And previous managers we've sacked at this point, so this manager should be held to the same standard. But we're trying to, this is a different kind of project. This is not something that we were under Mourinho and Conte, where they were brought in to win now, and it's almost as if like, well, if we don't win now, then it's the club's fault, and I'm going to spit my dummy out the pram. No, and just building something with young players, a young team, changing the style of play, and all these different things, and that doesn't come overnight. That's not an easy thing to do. It's not going to just be plain sailing, especially in the way we're trying to do it with all these, Berg, Val, and Gray, and these very, very young players that are going to need time to really flourish at this club. So I think we need reinforcements. I think we need our players back, and I think all these different circumstances. But I'm more interested about where we finish, not where we are after 17 games. If we finish in the top 5, no one's going to be saying, but you were 11th after 17 games, so you've got to go. You know what I mean? We'll be irrelevant. It's what's relevant is where we actually finish and what we do come the end of the season. You've got to give them a chance to do that, in my opinion, rather than just bidding it off.
Simon, you're correct where you are when you're saying looking up. But people, when we're looking up as well, you've also got to look at where we could be looking down. And right now, and listen, I've championed youth and wanted to see youth. And as you know, Simeon, since I've been coming on here, I wax lyrical about Alfie Devine. I've wanted him to succeed and get in the team as quickly as possible. I adore him. And I've kept saying that when you bring in these young stars, big teams around us bring in these youngsters, but they have a crop of stars around them, experience, talent, genuine quality to nurture them, to train them, to educate them, to see them through games, to support them. And we just keep chucking lambs to the slaughter. And you look at it right now, through no fault of his own, Archie Gray's got to go in defence. He's an 18-year-old kid. There's no support for him. The midfield, look at the midfield in front of him. Basuma, way off form. They're like lambs to the slaughter, and they are absolutely shattered. When we did have the full squad, there was hardly any rotation. I mean, in game, obviously Europa League, he dropped and rotated, which I was really, really impressed with. But he rotated in a way that he still kept stars in. But the Premier League during games could have freshened things up, substitutions earlier, or kept players fit, but we keep playing the same team. I think it was Ariane. Was it Ariane after the Chelsea game when he made the point about for the Southampton game Chelsea had before, they made 8 changes. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they have a very, very big squad. There's no doubt in the talent they have. But they can rotate and keep that team fresh. Other teams do that. We're just like, right, the same 11, maybe 1 change here, 2 change here. And that's what's not been helping. But like I said, we are where we are, and hopefully Ange can dig himself, or not. I don't say dig himself out of the hole, but obviously the pressure is mounted outside the club. We don't know what's going on inside the club. And like I said, I am wanting Ange to succeed, and I won't turn on him. But I can understand why people are. Their reasoning I can get.
I can understand it because every other manager who's done as badly as Ange has done right now has been sacked by this football club. So that's what they expect. Every other manager, any manager at this football club who has got the results that Ange has got has been sacked. Right? That's the fact. So that is the expectation that fans have been set. That if you're at this stage and you're getting these results, you should be sacked. That's the expectation the club has set by how they've treated other managers. What I'm trying to say is we should try and look at this in a different way. Try and actually see what we're trying to do instead of act. My point is we shouldn't be acting in the same way we're always been acting, right? Because we keep doing the same thing, we're going to end up in the same place, all right? So maybe let's just not completely throw things away in mid-season like we do so often, and actually try and go in a different direction and try actually let the manager ride out the storm rather than just throw him into the storm and basically sack him and go in another direction mid-season where we're basically chucking the towel in this season, essentially, if we sack the manager now and go in a different direction. We're basically saying we're going for another project and we're going to have to adjust to another way of playing, and it's basically going to be next season where hopefully things start to go right rather than turn things around this season. So I think we should stop acting like we've been acting in the past however long, right? Hiring and firing managers, and actually just stick by him and just see where we are at the end of the season. Now, at the end of the season, if we're still in 11th and we've gone out all the cups early and we haven't even looked like going on a cup run and things have gone completely wrong, then that's time to say, okay, let's maybe go in a different direction. But I think right now, while everything is still open, while we're only 4 points off 5th, while we're still in the semi-final of a League Cup, while we're in potentially in Europa League knockout stage, while we're still in the FA Cup, you know, you got to give him a chance to fail. He hasn't failed yet. You got to give him a chance to fail. And that, for me, that means going out of everything, and then we assess it. Then that's just where I stand.
I'll just say final, like you've seen on the bottom of the title, Anthony's reinforcements. Come January, a lot of what you said, I can relate to with what the fans are feeling, with how the fans are expressing their support or dismay at the management. I'm talking about Ange, not the owners. But where I am going with this now is let's see the fibre of the fabric of the owners and see what happens in January. If it's another cheap deals, loans, sell to buy, we can't afford it nonsense, then you know exactly that this club is setting him up for failure, like every other manager. But we're gonna have to see this one really splits. It really splits opinions. And like I said, I understand both sides, but I just can't bring myself to say the word out for the manager like I can easily say it for the owner. I just can't do it. I just can't at the moment.
All right, let's move on to the next topic. And we're going to talk about Kulusevski. And what's quite interesting about these Kulusevski quote, he's been speaking after the Liverpool game, and he seems to kind of question some of the tactics from Ange Postecoglou. I'll read out some of the quotes. I did watch the interview, and I have to say, when I watched it, you do get a different kind of vibe to watching it than you do maybe just reading out the quotes, because you don't maybe get the tone of how he's saying it. But I'll read them out anyway. He was asked about the team's shortcomings. He said, he said the problems are not just black and white. He said if you want to get he was asked, do Tottenham need more controlling games? He said if you want to get a result, maybe yes. You have to think about how we are physically, who's playing, how many games how many games have we played the last week, who are we playing, have they rested for 1 week or something. You have to put everything in, because it's like life. It's not just black and white. It's a lot of factors going into it. And then Kulusevski was asked as well, with the state of the squad, is the way we're playing sustainable? He said maybe not, but you have to improve. You have to find ways. Maybe we should have let them have the ball more, but that's not how we play. We went out, we gave everything, it didn't work. Maybe we learn for next time. So a lot of interesting quotes there from Dejan Kulusevski. A lot of people suggesting maybe he's questioning the tactics. Maybe he's saying we should have played in kind of a different way going into this game. Look, I do think there's obviously a lot of validity to what he's saying, because we were out on our feet against Liverpool. We couldn't compete with them. We what's it called? We tried to match their energy, as Decky said in his interview, but we just weren't able to do it, and they were able to overrun us, and that led to, you know, the shit show that was Sunday. And there's no beating around the bush. It was as bad as it gets, really, on Sunday in terms of how out of the game we were. But what do you make of some of the comments he said there, Kulusevski?
All I will say, first of all, is first Romero talking about we all know what happened. Now Kulusevski talking about the manager. It's not a good look, is it? Now it's just how long until Kulusevski has to come out with an apology and say, yeah, this has been taken out, blah, blah, blah. I meant this, and this.
I think if I watched the interview, it's on CBS, and I think when you watch him say the words and you get the tone of what he's saying, rather than just reading out those quotes, where if you read out the quotes, you come up with the tone in your head, right, and you probably think he's being very critical. But when you hear him say, I think what he's trying to say is, like, could we have done something different? Yes, but that's not how we play. And what I think what he's trying to say by that is not to say like how we play is wrong. He's saying we're set up in a certain way, and if we did something different, are we like going to be as perfect in that kind of way of playing, right, to get a result against a good team like Liverpool, when we haven't really trained in that way? We train in a different way, which is how we play. And could we have done something? If we do something different, we could try it, but we're obviously not going to be as refined or as perfect in that method of playing, and so that's not how we play. And so yes, we got to learn and we got to improve, but like I think when you hear him say it rather than kind of just read the words, I think it comes off as a different tone. Like he wasn't like angry or like frustrated when he was saying these things. Is my point.
Joe, as you know, Simeon, and anyone that's in the chat or watches this knows me. I am known as the king of the voice notes on social media, on WhatsApp, on anything, because exactly what you said, because of the tone of voice, and you can hear everything. If you're joking, you're laughing, you're furious, you're sad, whatever, you can tell it all. And I think the opposite to you, Simeon. And the way I don't mean he's come out and he's come all guns blazing. I think at the end of the game, when he, especially him with his work rate, and he's been pulled out of position. Obviously, I understand why he put Kulusevski at right wing, because give Porro protection and the work rate, the job. I personally get that part, but it shows how bare bone we are when we're moving our player of the season by a country mile out of his best position and forcing him to play, or not forcing him, but asking him to play somewhere else. And making our best player not be in his best position where he can have the most impact. I think it's, just like, yeah, what's the point? Not saying it's just like, I think this has been mentioned from things I've heard, that the dressing room have questioned him occasionally on his tactics, saying this is too relentless, it's non-stop. I think it might be just like, yeah, what can we do about it? We've said this, I think that it's not been taken out of context. I think it's not as severe as what people are trying to make it, like, oh my god, shots fired, but I think he is sending a little message. But I think there's some validity behind it, in all honesty.
I think at the moment, I was asked after the game on Sunday, is the way we're playing sustainable? And I said, well, currently no. I think that's clear to see. And I think we can't, at the moment, we are very much struggling to implement how Ange wants to play with the current state of the squad, the fact that we're playing the same players every game, with the defence that we have out there. 100%. I completely agree with that. Does it mean the approach in general is wrong? Not necessarily. But Ange, at the moment, is playing this way because he believes that we can still score goals, which is true, right? We can still score goals with even with the team we have out there. 5 against Southampton, we got 3 yesterday, we got 3 even against Chelsea. Like, we are scoring goals still. 4 against Man United as well. So he's of the opinion that if we try and just continue to score goals, maybe we'll get enough points to see us out this period, and then we'll come out the other side of it. Now, the reality is, we're conceding way too many, and especially when you come up against the best team in the league, Liverpool. We conceded 6 goals, and maybe it was, at that point we were like lambs to the slaughter. But I'm also of the opinion that I don't see a universe where any changes gets as a result really on Sunday anyway. So he's probably just of the opinion that we'll try and score, we'll try and do what we do, and see if we can get a result rather than try and grinding out a point and then probably coming out with a loss anyway, and then you've gone away from your tactics and still got a loss. So that's kind of how he sees it, I think.
I can listen. I think that's exactly how he sees it. I think that's exactly how he sees it. And to me, this is one of the issues I do have with Anne, is you cannot play in consecutive weeks the worst team in the league by far. I didn't realise how poor Southampton were until that game, and then try exactly the same against the very, very best in the league at the moment, and one of the highest performing teams in Europe, and expect the same result or expect to do damage. Liverpool can adapt and cater to any, as we've seen all season. Apart from Forest, they have found the answers to the questions, and we have played the big boys. Apart from Man City, we have not found the answers. People will say Aston Villa, yeah, okay, let's put Villa in that mix. But it's just the same way. And the big teams, the big teams that are above us, are just like, we know what to do now. We know how to do this, and they find the Achilles heel and they press down on it, and we don't do anything to respond to it. So with that, I think you can't not look at the manager and say you don't expect to be able to compete with the best team in the country by a mile at the moment. The same way you just beat the the worst team and expect the same result. It's just you just can't do it. You just can't do it.
All right, next up, we're going to be talking about some transfer news, and this comes from Relevo in Spain, and they're saying that Johnny Cardozo could join Tottenham in January. Apparently, a scout was at the Real Betis game on Sunday to closely monitor Johnny Cardozo and also apparently collecting information about the striker Vitor Roque. But according to Relevo, Tottenham do not rule out trying to advance for Johnny Cardozo in January. Real Betis need around 20 million in profits in transfers, and Cardozo is seen as someone who can help provide that and therefore could be on the move in January. Obviously, we have that apparent, clause, but I think it's only that only activates in the summer. So whether we can agree a deal for the same price in January remains to be seen. But he's obviously a player, defensive midfielder, who would add more energy into the midfield. You said though, priorities for you would be a defender and a winger. But if we had the chance to bring him in early, would you take it?
I don't know enough about him to say, yeah, do you know what? He's going to be the impact. He's the difference. He'll be another body in midfield, won't it? But we've now got Bentancur back. So we've got him back. Is midfield a key area? I think, like you said, the only way this gets done is once again if a certain owner goes and tries to get a special deal for we'll see what happens. If someone said to me Cardoso would come in first signing, I don't know what I'd say to it. For me, the left back is the major priority. But we've done this before, haven't we, Sim, where we've needed positions desperately and we've gone and brought someone in completely a different position. So could I see this happening? Yes. Can I comment if it'll be a great signing or not? No, because I don't know enough about him and I'm not going to just say stuff just for the sake of it.
I've got a feeling, though, that we're waiting to sell one of Bentancur or Basuma to bring him in. And I think I've got a feeling that that's why we're probably more likely to do it in the summer when I don't see Basuma or Bentancur leaving in January. And as long as they're here, and whatever people think about them, they're still players that I think Ange trusts right now. And on their day can be all very good players. So I think while they're here, I don't think we move for Cardozo in January unless we sign for a pre-agreement for him to come in the summer in January. I think we're going to wait in the summer, sell one of Basuma or Bentancur, and then bring him in. And all of a sudden, that'll be our six, I think. So I think it's unlikely, especially with the whole European squad situation, that we get him in Jan. I just don't see all three of them being here at the same time. I just think it's highly unlikely that'll be the case. So I think it'll be a good signing for us. I think he's doing really well at Betis. He's the kind of player that we need when it comes to his ability off the ball. He's a bit of a beast. But, yeah, as I say, while Bentancur and Basuma are here, I think it's unlikely we move in for a player like that. Next up comes from two reports from Ali Gold and from the Daily Mirror. They're reporting that Daniel Levy has conducted an interview with Talk Sport by Simon Jordan, and that interview is set to be released in the near future. Not sure when exactly the release of this said interview is going to be. We know that Daniel Levy doesn't really do much press interviews, does he? It's very rare that you get to see him in front of camera and do an interview. Simon Jordan is not one, usually, is he, to pull his punches or to not to ask difficult questions if he gets an opportunity to, especially, usually when he's having a debate with someone on Talk Sport, he'll happily go after them for their thoughts and whatever. So what are you expecting from this interview with Simon Jordan and Daniel Levy?
The coward that Daniel Levy is to do what Daniel Levy does. He does a scripted one on Spurs official YouTube channel or social media channel with that whole every penny goes back into the club, blah, 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 that famous one. Has the AGM done where obviously selected people got in and no one would ask him the difficult questions. And now he does an interview with his best bud in football. Simon Jordan, I will say and give him credit, he will tackle hard questions. Do I believe that he'll ask Levy them or pressure him? No, I don't. I'd love an independent media person that would ask the questions, or even fans. Even fans, you've had the fans forum, we'll now have the people like myself, not saying me specifically, that will ask you the tough questions to be answered, and let's see what you have to say to them. I expect this to be exactly the same as the YouTube video a couple of years ago. Scripted questions, pre-prepared answers, and won't talk about the difficult times or answer the difficult questions, and he'll be the coward that he always is.
But Simon Jordan is someone who kind of prides himself on not being on asking difficult questions, isn't he? On being a bit of a, since he's gone on to talk sport, he's not been shy about his opinions to anyone. He'll say it to people's faces. They've had people guests on where he's not been shy about his opinions, has he? To some of these people. So, is there a chance he might hold Levy's feet to the fire a bit?
I think, listen, one thing I enjoy listening to Simon Jordan. I really do. I think he's a breath of fresh air, apart from when this conversation comes up and he leaps into defence mode of him. And I can understand why, being a fellow chairman, whatever. So I think some of the things he says about Levy are wrong, very wrong. I do think he'll ask you some tough questions, but Levy will probably give
Levy answer them, yeah.
Exactly. That's the thing. He'll ask the questions and there'll be like a squirmy answer. And then it just won't be pressed down on. Like people go for our Achilles heel, it won't go anywhere near. Won't put him under pressure or under fire, because he'll just go, no, stop. I expect it to be a very, very. I expect Simon Jordan to ask some questions that will put him in a difficult place, but not the really big ones that the fans want to hear.
Will you be watching?
Believe me, I'll be watching, and then I'll be reacting. Because I think I know what's coming. It'll be another pathetic, cowardly interview by Levy, not Jordan. I've got a great deal of time for Simon Jordan. I like listening to him.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see what that interview brings, and if or when it is released. Last but not least, according to Footy Headline, who was it? Let me just get the source out. Yeah, Footy Headlines. There's been a leaked kit for the 25-26 season, and apparently this is how it's going to look. We can bring it on screen. It is a all-black kit. As you can see, it's got like kind of grid lines. Very faint, you can see on that picture, but if you look closely enough, you can see the grid lines there. I can't remember the last time we've had an all-black kit, but I kind of like the idea of Tottenham being in all-black again.
Yeah, I mean, listen, to be fair, that is a stunningly beautiful kit. That really is. That is, let's just say some retail outlets, not from the Spurs shop, are going to have a field day with that one. But that is a stunning kit, I have to say.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I think maybe we can cook in that kit. I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say no.
Or you could say we're in mourning.
Maybe we're going to be in mourning
after
missing out on European football for another year. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But look, apparently that is the kit, for the away kit, I should say, for next season. So look, let's see if there's any truth to it. Obviously, Footy Headlines usually apparently quite accurate when it comes to the kit leaks. So I guess we'll see if there's any truth to it. But that is your Tottenham update. Thank you for joining us for that. And let us know in the comment section below anything we discussed today on that Tottenham update. Let's go into some comments. Darren Denton says, why does Sim believe all the ITKs? They were all exposed last summer window. When did I mention anything about ITKs? I don't believe all the ITKs.
I've made a vow. I've made a New Year's resolution already that I am not going to respond to any transfer rumours at all on Twitter in January. I'm not going to.
Are you doing a Barry? Are you doing a Barry till he's holding the shirt?
Kind of. I just can't. Do you know what? I just can't be asked with it. It's all. Oh, it all happened, and then at least we tried, and blah blah blah. Or there's a stumbling block. When I watched it yesterday. And saw your update. I quickly watched it once you released it, and I saw the Ben Godfrey one. I sent a message to Ben. I should have sent it to you as well, saying, "Oh well, I can't wait for the Daily Godfrey to be the January speculation." And bids will be. I'm not refusing to it. I'm not responding to any of them, or even commenting on them, because it's a waste of breath.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Fair enough. But we will be commenting on every rumour in January, so you know where to be.
50 Shades of Simeon. Listen, I'm going to tell people now, I keep saying to Simeon, watch out during January for 50 Shades of Simeon, because you'll see at the beginning of the window, he'll be so positive. This is going to
We're
happen.
getting this, we're getting him, we're getting that.
It'll get to about the 18th, and then Simeon is like me, face of thunder. It's like, oh, here we go. Watch out for 50 Shades of Simeon.
We'll wait January. We're not far to go now, about a week, so not long to go until the window flies open. All right, let's get into the game on Thursday then. We do have Nottingham Forest away. Now, what is actually a massive game now in the context of our season? I think a lot can hinge on what kind of result we get on Thursday night. Before we get into, we're going to preview the game, obviously, and get into kind of the nitty-gritty of both teams. But we'll do a predicted lineup since Ange has done his press conference and has released the team news. And we'll get... Shall I bring on the lineup? One sec. Yeah, should we get the... Let's talk about the injuries first. So I guess bring on the injury graphic first. And so Ange has done his press conference, and this is the list of injuries that we currently have going into Thursday. So Cuti Romero, Richarlison, Odebear, Vicario, Mikey Moore, and Mickey van der Ven all remain unavailable for Thursday. They're going to be long-term absentees. None of them, I don't think, are going to be seen in the new year. In more positive news, Bentancur obviously returns from his suspension, so he is going to be available for Thursday, as is Destiny Udogie, who wasn't 100% right and shed going into the game on Sunday, which is why he was on the bench. But he will be available, should be available, I should say, for Thursday. And slightly more positive is Ben Davies has returned to training over the last couple of days with an outside chance of being available on Thursday, but Ange has confirmed he's more likely to be available for the weekend and not Thursday. He said if he trains well today, maybe there's a slight chance he'll be available, but his gut is telling him that he's only trained 2 days since coming back from injury, and the more likely scenario is he'll be back for the weekend, so unlikely to see Ben Davies back for Thursday. So that is the injury news. Still lots of injuries to contend with, and especially at centre-back as well. But look, I'm positive that some players are coming back anyway, so the more players back, the better. Let's bring on the lineup. Yeah, we've got it on there. Oh, do you want to resize him? Okay, so the lineup.
Here we go. Let's do it. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. We've got it here. There, Brian, you're next to it. You can see it. So the particular lineup will go as follows. In goal, we are going to go with, of course, no one else but Big Fraser Forster, who's going to be in goal for this one. Obviously, he's not had the best couple of games, has he, Fraser, after some good performances. Are you worried, that his form has taken a slight dip over the last couple of games?
I'd be lying if I said no. Do I think he can get back to the games he had prior to the last two? Yeah, I do. Does worry me though with Chris Wood, a big battle axe being around him, and the form he's been in all season. But we've got no choice, have we? It's whether he's not going to play Whiteman or Austin, so he's got to get back into form.
Agreed. And look, he's going to have to be a lot better playing out the back, albeit Forest aren't kind of the team that press too high and always on you like a rash like some other teams. So maybe on that front, it should play into his hands. But look, we know that he's not been at his best over the last couple of games, and Forest are going to be well up for it. So he's going to have a good game, especially from set pieces. I think that's going to be crucial. Right back is interesting. So Pedro Porro and Jed Spence are both available. With a doggy back, you'd think he comes into the team with him being a bit fresher maybe than the other players. So the question is, who do you play at right back? Porro has played a lot of football, does look on his feet at the moment, but he's also the senior right back, and Jed Spence has done well coming into the team the last few games. Yeah. But does Ange put him ahead of Pedro Porro at right back at the start? What do you reckon, Brian?
Put it this way, if it was me, Jed Spence starts at right back. If Destiny's been out for a couple of weeks whether it be a knock or he's not fully fit and they wanted to or rest him, whatever it may be. We know it was a slight knock. You could see Porro is just shot to bits. He is literally, he's knackered. And his form has not been good for the last couple of games. And I'm a big fan of Porro. And we were talking before about squad utilisation, and we know we're down to the bare bones. And I think we just need, for the greater good, to give Porro a rest. And I would say Spence. Where are you on it, Sim?
I agree. I think Spence needs to play. I also think because he hasn't played so much this season, he's a bit fresher at this time, and he adds that bit more energy that we need at the back line. And obviously Porro, he tried to give him a break. I think it was away at Southampton, and then Udogie got injured, and so he didn't have a break in that game. And then obviously Udogie hasn't been able to play since, so Porro hasn't had his break yet. And I think this is a perfect opportunity to give it to him. And I think Spence has filled in more than good enough over the past couple of games. And as well, it's against his former club. It's a team he knows well. Obviously, I don't know how much the players of the current team he knows, but returning to his old team, I think it's a good scenario to put him back in. So I think Spence should come in right back, and then Destiny Udogie there will come in at left back, and that's what I think will be the scenario going into this game. And hopefully that should give us a bit more energy at fullback, where we've been struggling definitely over the past few games. Centre-backs, I think no other option with... I don't think he's going to risk Ben Davies by the sounds of things. And we've got no other centre-back, so I think it's going to be Radu and Archie Gray at the back. Obviously, it got found out a bit, didn't they, against Liverpool after performing quite well against United and Southampton and Rangers. Liverpool was a real eye-opener as to what kind of level they're really at as a partnership. And it's going to be a tough game against Forest team and against Chris Wood, who's in brilliant form, isn't he?
Oh, he is. But first of all, I will say, when we get to the defence as well, when Arne Slot came out and said we saw the best place to go is put pressure on Dragusin, as opposed to Archie Gray, an 18-year-old midfielder who's now at centre-back. That spoke volumes. They are down to the bare bones. They need to... But the thing is, against Rangers and against a few other games, they look very good together. They look composed. They looked that they could do the job. But Rangers was not an easy fixture. All right, we conceded, but they looked like, okay, for a couple that have just been thrown together, they look like they could hold their own. And like they said, they've got Chris Wood, who is a big powerhouse. And if they try and pin on Archie Gray for strength, we could be in trouble that way.
That was something he struggled with on Sunday. I think that aerial challenges with Szoboszlai and some of the other players, I think he got bullied a bit.
Let's face it, you cannot blame Archie Gray for an 18-year-old kid that's just come in and said, right, play out of position. Could he be a bit more courageous or going with a bit more oomph? Yeah, maybe. But I'm not going to hold anything against him for it as an 18-year-old kid in the wrong position. But that defence, you look at it's kind of picking itself, isn't it?
At the moment, I think needs must. Maybe Ben Davies will be on the bench just in case anything does happen. And
would you risk him?
Fill in
Even
there.
if it was, would you risk him coming on? Like we saw with... Look, if we look at Chelsea, when we rushed Van de Ven back and Romero came back, look what happened there. Do you risk doing that and then something happening? I mean, it might not, but I wouldn't touch Ben Davies in this game. I'd want him fit for hopefully Wolves or the beginning of the year.
Okay. Next up, we're going to go look in midfield. And I think, obviously, in the 6 or the double pivot, Bentancur returns from suspension. For you, he goes straight back in.
After Basuma's performance against Liverpool, yeah, he does. For me, but then you look at it, is he fit enough? He played against, who was it he came on against? And
Rangers he played in the other Europa League game. I think it was Roma.
Yeah, so against Rangers, I thought in the first half, I came on to the show after and I said I thought Bentancur in the first half was brilliant. But then there was a lot of mixed... No, he wasn't. He gave the ball away. He weren't fit. But and there's a lot of talk about the substitution, wasn't it? Why did he go off when he should be the freshest player and we can rest players? Is he fit? Is he match fit enough? Don't know. But I would, for the way Basuma played against Liverpool, I would start Rodrigo.
I agree. I think he needs to come in. We need those fresh legs.
Yeah.
Now, next up, some interesting selection. So who we go with in the 2-8s, because Sarr started on Sunday but came off after 65 minutes because I think he was running on empty. Obviously, Maddison scored, but again also went off on the hour mark on Sunday. Yep. You've also got Decky, who could come into the 8 because we know that's his true position. And we'll talk about Brennan in a minute, but with him not playing much, there's a good chance Brennan comes back into the team. And you've got Lucas Bergvall, who could potentially come in. Or you could even go with Basuma and Bentancur potentially in this one as well. Away from home, do you want 2 strong midfielders? So a lot of different options there. But what do you choose going into this game?
I'm really torn. It would either be Sarr and Kulu or Kulu and Bergvall. I think we got to see some more of Bergvall.
So we both agree. I think I agree as well. I think Decky definitely comes into the middle.
Yeah, he 100%. And then you got the other one, and it would be between Bergvall and Sarr for me. It would be between Bergvall and Sarr. Just because Bergvall has got that little bit about him and can play deep and see these passes. Sarr has got the legs. Maddison, in this game where I think there's going to be Forest are a powerful team. They got runners. I don't know if Maddison's going to have one of those games where he's really, really hot or he's really, really cold. And if we've got if Forest are just planning to run us all over the shop, you can't start James Maddison, in my opinion. So it'd be Bergvall or Sarr for me. What about you, Sim?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think Maddison needs to come out. We need to put in one of the other 2 players. I would even consider Basuma potentially as well, maybe play next to Bentancur, but for some reason whenever we play them together it's not quite right. I don't know why. I don't know, logically, those are 2 players that should work well together, but they don't, or they haven't yet, I should say. So maybe Sarr obviously played 90 minutes against Southampton, 90 minutes against United, and then played 65 minutes and was running on complete empty against Liverpool on Sunday. So does he go completely fresh, bring in Bergvall, who did well against Southampton, and just give that a go? I'm leaning towards Bergvall just because he'll be a bit fresher. It's a good opportunity for him to show that he's can even play at a higher level than the Southampton game against higher level opposition, and maybe that little bit extra technical ability that he could potentially bring could that help us break down a very stubborn Forest team. And he even came on against Liverpool. I thought did quite well, right? When he came on against Liverpool, I thought he had a good cameo, in my opinion. Was involved in the 3rd goal as well. So maybe it's a good opportunity just to try and rest Sarr and Basuma if we can, who've been playing a lot of football recently.
Right.
And I'm going to go Lucas. I've talked myself into it. I'm going to go Lucas Bergvall in the middle.
I'll tell you what,
partnering him with the Swedish guy, with Swedish partnership as well. Go on, what are you saying?
Well, I was about to say, if you pick up, I've noticed, I'm sure others have as well, Bergvall's got that bit of Dele Alli in him, hasn't he? He picks up yellow cards. He's got he does. Obviously, you love players with that bit of bite. You love it. You don't take it out of their game. And he's showing it as an 18-year-old kid. He'll put his foot in, but he's picking up a yellow card every game, isn't he? There's another thing that he's got to work on, but I love that he's got that bit of bite about him at such a young age.
Completely agree. Forward line would be interesting. So I think with Decky playing in the middle, we're going to go Brennan Johnson out wide. Again, another player playing against his former club. I'm sure he'll get a nice reception there. I think at the moment, only one real option we can have up front, and that is big Dom Solanke. I think he's going to have to retain his position. But I guess the awkward one is on the left. Sonny did look out on his feet on Sunday, and he's played did he play 90 minutes on Sunday, or he played what, 70 minutes, 80 minutes? Yeah, but came off, not much time left, I don't think. But he did go off. Is it a case of, if Timo's an option, you give him a go, or do you say we have to have Son if he's available, and kind of even if he's running on empty a bit, you kind of need to put him in?
I hate it's a bit of both. And for the sake of keeping Son fresh and keeping it, I would start Werner, because I think Son needs, like you said, he is playing so much football We so desperately need our captain fit and firing, but we are running him into the ground as a team, and he looked exhausted on the bench after he came off. I think he'll start Werner. I think he'll start Werner.
I've got a feeling he might, like, if you're giving me a choice between Werner on Thursday or Werner on Sunday, I'll probably choose Werner on Sunday. You know, give him a go against Wolves, and I think this is a bigger game. I think we need Son in this game. If he can just make a bit of a difference, get one chance and a goal, and you know, get us in the lead or something, and just have one moment, I think that would kind of be enough for me in this game to justify selecting him. I think it's such a big game for us. We need to make sure we get 3 points in this game to put us back in that hunt for the top 4. And I think our best bet might be Son, and I think maybe we can rest him on Sunday and put Timo in there for the Wolves game.
Let me counteract that, Tim. Let me counteract that. Would you say doing that, or would you rather have Son start, and then if he does tire, then you bring on Werner when we could be chasing the game or whatever, or you have Sonny on the bench, sharp as the game's coming out to come and have an impact, let's say 35 minutes left, like 65th minute, 70th, a fresher Sonny against a tiring Forest to come on and have that explosiveness and bit of difference and a real impact. We say Brennan Johnson is an impact sub, or people will say he plays better and he's more of an impact sub. Well, you don't get much better of an impact substitution to come off the bench to try and change something than Sonny, do you? Is it best to keep your secret weapon there and if needed bring him on, or do you play him and then he tires, you substitute him for Werner? That's the big question for me.
Yeah, I see both sides of it. It's difficult. It's a difficult one. I think Son is very much struggling, but hopefully the fact that it's Sunday to Thursday, that's enough rest day to think he could be a bit more fresher coming into this game than maybe he would have been on the other end.
Another question: if it is Werner, who becomes captain? Kulu?
I guess so. Maybe Fraser. I think he's been given the captain's armband in other games. Let's go. I think we're going to go with Son. Son on the left.
There you go.
Going to do it. Sonny on the left. So if you look at this team, if we're looking at ways to freshen up the team, at least Doggy, Bentancur, Bergval, Brennan, that should that be enough freshness to think that we can at least put in a good performance in this game rather than running on empty like we were on Sunday.
I think before we go any further with that, we have to admire and say what a fantastic job Nuno and Nottingham Forest are doing at the moment. Mm-hmm. They are. Listen, this ain't the Forest of last season when we went there, or the previous season. This is a Forest team that are extremely well drilled, very, very tough to beat, winning games all different kinds of ways, putting in great. He is doing a great job, and they'll be bang up for it. This team, you would want to think that Spurs could beat a Forest team. You would want to think, and on paper at the beginning, that you'd think that team could, but they are so well drilled. They're kind of reminded me when we had Poch. If a player went out, the system was so set in stone. Every player came in and knew their role and knew what they were doing. That's what's happening at Forest right now. It's like, right, we play this system. You're coming in, not asking you. It's the same. They look. If they lose a player, another one comes in. It's going to be a big, big ask. It's going to, because listen, they are flying at the moment, and they will smell blood. They will smell blood with us. But that team, like you said, there is freshness in Destiny. There is freshness, you'd say, Spence, who has done very well in the 2 games he's come in. Certainly had some impact. Rodrigo, back from, don't know why I'm on first name basis with him all of a sudden. Bentancur's back. Is he fresh enough? Bergval for sure. And Brennan, you'd think, and like you said, there is the 2 ex-Forest players, so there's a bit of incentive for them and wanting to do well on their own stomping ground. That should be able to do a job, shouldn't it? It really, on paper, that should be able to do more than a job at Forest. It's whether they will.
And so at least add a bit of intensity into the game and into our
Yeah.
performances, which has definitely been lacking, or definitely there was lacking on Sunday. So I think, is that a team that will definitely win? I mean, not necessarily. Is that a team that's good enough to win? Yes. Is that a team that should be fresh enough to win? I think so. And then you've got the likes of Basuma Sarr on the bench. You've got Madison to come on as well if need be. All of a sudden, you look at that team, and all of a sudden you've got more options. It looks a lot healthier with the likes of Benton corner, Doggy back. So even Porro can come on and make an impact potentially.
Yeah. The big thing I will say, Simeon, as well, is we've been saying the last few games that midfield has been an issue. There's been no bite or no anything. You would say that midfield has got a lot of bite, a lot of energy. It's got a bit of everything, hasn't it? To kind of what we have been lacking in prior games in midfield. I think that three cover what we've been missing individually and collectively.
All right. So if that's the team, what's your prediction, Brian?
Mate, I'm gonna go Desmond. I'm going Desmond. Listen, Simon, I spoke about it. There's a player in Nottingham Forest that I would take right here, right now. If it was the only player we signed in January, I'd say it'd be a brilliant window, and that's Morgan Gibbs-White. I think he's exceptional. I honestly, in this system, I think it'd be brilliant, and he's a real concern for me. But Forest have got a lot of players to worry about right now, haven't they?
They do, and Hudson-Odoi is in great form. Look, let's get into a match preview. I'll take the line. I'll take the lineup away, and we'll talk. I also went for 2-2, by the way. That was my prediction. So you're in good hands here. Okay, taken off. Sec. There you go. All right, so let's get into the match preview as Spurs take on Forest at the City Ground Thursday evening in what is an actual pivotal game. So many talking points going into it. Nuno coming back to Spurs, Brennan and Spence going back to Forest. Forest in fourth place going into this game with a current 8-point lead on Tottenham Hotspur in that race for the top four. If you look at the form of both teams going into this game, we'll bring that on right now. Last 5 games, Forest 5 wins out of the last 4 games. 4 wins out of the last 5 games, with Spurs 2 wins, 2 losses and a draw. We have scored double the amount Forest have scored, but also conceded more than double than Forest have conceded. When you look at the home form, Forest are flying at home, 4 wins and 1 loss. Our away form, again, similar to our overall form, 2 wins, 2 losses and a draw. So it's we're facing a Forest team in incredible form right now. There's no doubt about it. Where they're flying, they're coming into this game definitely feeling like they might come into this game probably feeling like they're the favourites and they can win this game. And given how we're defending at the moment, I don't blame them for being confident. But the question is, are they in a false position? Not false position, but will they be able to sustain the level of performance and results they've been getting? Are their results sustainable? Are Forest a top 4 team? Or are they just riding high and riding a wave of optimism and momentum? How do you feel, Brian?
Well, first of all, I think one thing we need to address, obviously, we've mentioned, we've spoke about Spence and Johnson coming back to their old ground. Nuno's going to be bang up for this one, isn't he? He's really going to be bang up for this one. I think Forest, we're going to Forest right now, and I remember we were there a couple of years ago together, weren't we, for the Carabao Cup. Their atmosphere is hostile. They're going to be going into this Christmas on the crest of a wave, pumped up, loving life. They will be completely behind the team. I don't think they're in a false position at all. I think you look at wins against Villa, 1-0 down until the dying moments. They turn it round. They are finding ways to win games. They destroyed Brentford, who hadn't lost a home game all season. They made very light work of Brentford, and many teams have gone there this season and struggled. They are a very well-drilled team, and I am concerned. When you look at that as well, the amount of goals conceded, goals scored, we know we're flying with. It's alarming the difference. It's alarming the difference conceded in goals.
On the flip side, though, you're right. They scraped past Villa. Well, I watched that game, and Villa weren't particularly great, but Forest didn't look like winning that game before they turned it around in the last minute. City have only won one game in their last 12, and that game was against Forest. They won 3-0, and they won that game pretty comfortably. They've also lost the likes of Newcastle at home recently. They lost 3-0 at the Emirates in a very disappointing result there. So when they've come up against maybe more attacking teams, they have maybe come unstuck a bit, or teams who can, who they know can attack really well, especially in recent weeks, who can score goals against them. They have kind of struggled a bit. So is there hope there that, given those results against teams who have kind of been on the front foot and attacked them and tried to dominate them, they've sometimes struggled a bit to overcome that?
So the way I've looked at this season, I've said it as well, is if a team let us play football, and they come to have a game of football without a fight or whatever it may be, we normally do very well, and get the job done. And it looks like Southampton, not saying Forest or Southampton, but if they let us play football, we will cause damage, we will create chances. But if Forest come to fight, if Forest come to say, right, we know what you're doing, Tottenham, we've seen the blueprint, we're gonna counteract this and do this, then we'll struggle. But if Nottingham Forest say, right, you go, we go kind of thing, or then they'll struggle against us. It's just I think it's a case of how City come and play. That's what I think decides this game. Unfortunately, I would love to say, if Spurs come out and they do what they do, we're flying. I think a lot of this is dependent on if Nuno says, right, we know how to beat Spurs. We're doing this game. At home, last home game before New Year, we're in the Champions League spot. Let's go out on a high and just get the result any means necessary. But if they say, right, let's go toe for toe for Tottenham, then I think we cause them major problems.
Which is going to be interesting to see how they set up, because in their last game against Brentford, they went with a 3 at the back, which is a new formation for them. But in most other games, they have been playing a 4 at the back, which has been their regular formation. And we know Spurs have definitely struggled against more 3 at the back systems this season than maybe a back 4. So, albeit against Man United, they played 3 at the back and we did okay against them on Thursday. So does that worry you a bit? Would you reckon that change of formation is a plan leading up to maybe playing us? And is that something you reckon they'll look at and think if we play this formation, we can get some advantages here?
I mean, Sim, you look at both their flanks look worrying. Williams and Hudson-Odoi, especially. The thing that worries me about this is Nuno will adapt. If the back 4 isn't working, he's got a back 5. Like you've just seen there, he'll just change it to the back 5 and cause us problems. We know whether you agree with it or not, ours won't change. If Forest do chop it, if Forest have the flexibility to change, Nuno has done this before, hasn't he? Worked with the back 5 at Wolves, final season back 4, came to us back 4. He will adapt and change, and Forest have the players that can do it. If they do go back 5, then I think we do struggle big time. We do struggle, and put it this way, if he goes for a back 5, I would snap your hand off for 2-2. Snap your hand off. I would snap for a draw, let's say. If he goes to a back 5, I think we lose. It's as simple as that, unfortunately.
Well, big talk, big words there from Brian Daigle. I think, them playing in a back 5 would be a disadvantage for us. I'd rather they go with a back 4 and try and take the game to us a bit and try and win the game, rather than going with a back 3 and try and just hit us on the counter. And with the pace of Hudson-Odoi and Elanga and the wing backs as well, be Ole Einar and Nico Williams, those are 2 fullbacks as well who actually can be quite good in the final third when given the opportunity. There are sometimes wing backs like Dalot and Mazraoui where I think in the final third they're actually not so great, and I'm actually not too worried about them. But people like Ole Einar and Nico Williams, if you give them opportunities in the final third, they can actually pull something out of the bag. Coupled in the fact you give the likes of Gibbs White Hudson-Odoi space. And also one player I want to talk about who's been brilliant for them is Elliot Anderson. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal. What a signing he has been, and he's such a workhorse in the middle there. Makes unbelievable amount of tackles, and he runs so much, such hard intensity. And he's got a bit of quality as well once he gets into those positions, once he wins the ball as well. He is one where, maybe he can. Maybe Newcastle might be regretting letting him go with the way he's performing at the moment.
He has been a standout player for them, hasn't he? He really has had some steel, some guile into their midfield, and again, he's striking up a wonderful partnership with MGW. And then you see Morgan Gibbs-White can play for me the 8, the 10, and I think he could be trained to do the 6. I personally think he could, but he can come deep and make play. He can go forward and be creative. And then you look at Anderson doing what he's doing. Then you said, like, I've been a big critic of when we were linked with Hudson-Odoi, because I just think he's caused problems wherever he's gone. Hasn't set the world alight with the big rep, but he's putting up trees. what? Excuse the pun there. He's putting up trees at Forest. They've got some danger people to look out for. They really have, and like you said, Anderson has been a big part of what they're doing. Yeah,
I agree, and I think he's been a phenomenal signing. With obviously they signed him for about 40-odd million, and there was a lot of eyebrows raised at the time. But he's done. He's really done exceptionally well, and I'm very, very impressed with how he's adapted to life at Nottingham Forest, and he's a big part of maybe why they are where they are at the moment. I also really like their back three: Murillo, and Milenkovic as well, who's a player we were linked with quite heavily for a while. Especially Murillo, he's such a Tottenham style centre back. I think he would suit us to a T. Murillo, I really like him. So aggressive, correct, but so proactive and on the front foot as well. Likes to play with the ball at his feet. He's like a Romero. He reminds me a lot of Romero, Murillo, the way he plays.
I think he's been, like you said, sorry, I cut you off there. I think their back three has been great. Like I said, the addition of Milenkovic has been brilliant, but Murillo started showing his quality at the end of last season, didn't he, or second half, and he's certainly carried it through this season. He has been a real standout defender for me, not just for Forest, but I think in the Premier League.
Agreed, and he's still so young. I think he's like 22 or 23. Murillo, that is. Milenkovic a bit older, but he was one who I think when we had Conte, he would have worked really well. I don't know right now under Ange if he's the right kind of defender for us, but he's a top player. I think doing really well, and he was captain of Fiorentina before they sold him. And obviously Hudson-Odoi, Elanga, such threats on the wide areas. But obviously Chris Wood, another season where he's banging the goals. I thought last season he was maybe overperforming in that second half of the season where he got end of the season with a large number of goals. This season, though, he keeps going from strength to strength. I think he's on 9 Premier League goals at the moment, which is incredible tally for a player like him at 33 years of age. He's having they call it an Indian summer, don't they, for a player like him? And he's been fantastic. And obviously against a defender like, especially against someone like Archie Gray, he'll probably be looking at that situation thinking, if you just get delivery in, I can really get the better of him.
I think it could be with Dragushin as well, in all honesty. Area ability, he's fantastic. It just goes to show there's certain players that when a manager comes in, they are just like the ideal. Forget their age, where they come from, whether they're fast, big, small. There's certain managers where certain players just absolutely click. And for Chris Wood, Nuno has been an absolute incredible appointment. He really said the Indian summer, and he's a very, very dangerous player.
10 Premier League goals, I should say, this season for Chris Wood, which is incredible, which puts him fourth in the scoring charts, just behind Palmer, Haaland and Mohamed Salah, which is not bad company, is he? Not bad company. And yeah, he's one where I think he's one of those strikers where if you can just make sure he's not getting the service, you should be able to keep him quiet. But if you allow good quality passes into him, he can make life very, very difficult for you. He's not going to be one of those strikers that's charging you down and, winning tackles and making that much of a nuisance. But he's one of those strikers where once a cross comes in, you just got to hope it doesn't fall to him, because if it does, there's a big chance that he's gonna get on the end of it, and he's gonna bully your defender, and that's what he's been doing all season. So we just got to be very, very careful of him.
I think one of the pros with him, Simeon, sorry, just very quickly, one of the pros is with him being the type of centre forward he is, should we be passing the ball back to Forster, he will have a bit more time to get rid of it. It's not like a Salah, it's not a pacey pressing striker that will go right and put one on him or put him under immense pressure. Hopefully that will give him, should we play out from the back, which I pray to God we don't, give him a bit more time on the ball. But yeah, he's a danger. No, listen, I can't believe
he's not the paciest as well. So hopefully the high line, should go some way to trying to nullify him.
Exactly. I mean, I can't believe, or I can believe that we're sitting here talking about how many play areas now Forest could be a danger to us, and not just us, any team at the moment, any team.
Completely agree, and that's why they are where they are. Fantastic. And as I say, 8 points clear of Tottenham at the moment. Looking at the head-to-head, I'll touch on that quickly. We do have a great record against Nottingham Forest. We've won. Let's get the head-to-head up. Get the head-to-head up. The last 5 results, we won 4 of the last 5 games, losing. I think that game in November 22 was a Carabao Cup. Third round, which we ended up losing. But last season, we did beat them at the Tottenham Stadium 3-1. But again, that was a difficult game. If I remember rightly, Van der Ven scored a belter in that game, and we ended up winning. We won at the City Ground 2-0, but that was Steve Cooper's last game in charge of Nottingham Forest last season. So it wasn't quite the Nuno kind of era. But yeah, so we've had we do have a good record against them. But I feel like this game isn't about records, and it's going to be difficult, in its own right, I feel.
I think going into this game, you look at that, the roles are reversed. Normally it's us where they are around that area and them where we are or lower, scratching and trying to claw their way up the table, where it's completely the other way around. Now, I think going into this game, they play with a completely different confidence, aura, freedom. And if this had been away, I think it'd be a very different prediction you and I would have gone for. But away at the moment with where they are, this is going to be trickier than all of those games mentioned there.
Agreed. And it's mad to think we're going to a game away at Forest, like really worried about them and worried about, can we get a result, and worried about what a good team they are. But it's a massive game in terms of the course of our season, in terms of what we're able to compete for. I think there could be a very big difference in terms of what we can achieve this season, league-wise anyway, between a win and a loss here. Because a loss, all of a sudden you're 11 points behind, 4th, and then all of a sudden that looks like a mountain to climb, and you're thinking, that's a fanciful thinking all of a sudden that you're going to get top 4. But then you win on Thursday, and all of a sudden you're 5 points off 4th, and all of a sudden the gap is very, very tight, and all of a sudden it's there for you to get if you go on a consistent run. So, I mean, a draw, it's kind of as you were, obviously. The gap will still be 8 points. 8 points is still pretty significant, I would say, albeit not insurmountable, but it's still pretty significant. And I would say it's going to be difficult to overturn that. But do you feel like if we lose on Thursday, that any shot at top 4 goes with that loss?
For me, any shot at top 4 went a few weeks ago. I'll go even further. Top 4 for me, even before we kicked the ball, wasn't even a possibility or
if
really.
We win, no, but Brian, if we win and it's 5 points, you can't say it's impossible, can you?
Maybe impossible. Impossible might be the wrong word. Do I think we can achieve top 4 this season? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If we do, it will be one of the biggest successes we've had in recent Premier League history. I just can't see how we do it. I do not think we can do it. As I said as well, all the cups are what matters to me this season. I just think top 4 and trying to pin our hopes on it is for me wild.
But it wouldn't be that wild if you're 5 points behind.
No, I get that right. It will be 5 points behind, but then you still got the what will we have left? Where are we? Is this our 19th game of the season? 18th, whatever it may be.
Game number 18, yeah.
Okay, so what we got? 20 games left.
So yeah,
I just can't.
5 points in 20 games? You don't think that's possible?
I just don't. I honestly, and it's not even me trying to be negative. I just can't see the way we play with that we can do it. If people want to think top four is a possibility, we can do it. Fair play to you. Fair play to you. And I commend your optimism and your belief that we can achieve that. I think it's 2 or 3 bridges too far.
Well, even let's say top 5, because 5th could be Champions League, right? So right now we're 5 points behind 5th right now.
But again, you can say that. But again, Tottenham, we need to also realise that should we lose, how bad it is to the lower half. Not saying, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we're getting sucked into relegation. That's nowhere near am I saying that. But 14th, I think West Ham are 3 points behind us, but we've got a far superior goal dip, far superior. We're not that far. We're closer to 14th than we are to 4th if we lose. I'm probably lower. My dreams of top 4 never even started this season. I just don't think it's achievable.
My point realistically, is, though, this win, though, if we win on Thursday, the table looks extremely different, and all of a sudden, it's not that unrealistic.
No, point-wise, you're right. Do I think Spurs have the strength in depth and quality to be able to sustain a top 4 challenge? Absolutely not. But like you said, technically, if you look at the table, 5 points behind with 20 games to go, that could be achievable if everything goes in our favour. I just can't see it.
But once we start getting players back and defenders back, and once we start, when you saw with the dog, we added Doggy and Bentancur back into that team, and all of a sudden, the midfield options look a bit more healthy. All of a sudden, we can give Porro a rest, and things just look a bit healthier once that all happens. And then, Davis is going to be back soon. Hopefully in January, Van de Ven and Romero will be back, and Richarlison as well. And all of a sudden, we can start to change things up, and we can start to look a bit fresher. And I think things look a bit different to right now, where obviously we're playing grey, and a lot of the teams are on their feet, and I just think it's a very big game on Thursday. I think in terms of what we can do on Thursday league wise, like if we win, I think it puts us right back in there with a shout. If we lose, I think it's dead. If we draw, I think it's nearly dead, but not quite dead, but it's nearly there. But if we win, I think we're right back in it.
If that's Simeon, I commend your positivity. I commend your belief, and mate, everyone is entitled to it. Everyone, whether you want to think top 4 is a possibility or not. And like I said, I commend anyone that thinks that. You're saying players coming back, and we're looking fitter and sharper. Do they come back to the match day form that they're capable of? Do they stay fit? Do we get Solanke back in the goals and find that? There's so many coulda, woulda, shouldas that have to align for me for top 4 to even be discussed. And like I said, anyone that wants to think that it's achievable, fair play to you. Fair play to you. Everyone has got a right to their opinion, wherever it be on this football club. For me, top 4 talk is. So
what's our ceiling? What's our ceiling, Brian?
Right now. If you said Spurs finish 6th, I'd snap your arm off. I would snap
We're 5 points off both 5th and 6th. So if we can finish 6th, we can finish 5th, surely.
Again, they all depend. Do I think you got to look at? Do I think Man U are going to strengthen in January and back a manager? Yeah, I do. I really do think Man U will go for it. Do I think other teams will strengthen to strengthen their cause right now in January and say, right, listen, we're higher than we. Will Forest go? Do you know what? My God, look, we could actually, not say Champions League, but we could sustain a European place. Do I think their chairman will go, right, Nuno, what do you need? Yeah, I do. Do I think they'll get player X, Y, Z? Maybe not the exactly all that. I think the teams around us strengthen. I think the teams around us will go for it this season. And do I think Tottenham Hotspur will? No. That's the stumbling block as well. I just don't think we will go and get what we need to support Ange to try and get him to that lofty position, where I do think Manchester United will address things and the other teams around us will go and try and strengthen their squad.
All right, fair enough. You said it was going to be 2-2. In terms of the whole Nuno subplot, how much does that play a role in this game? Do you think?
Massive, mate. It's massive, isn't it? If Nuno is rubbing his hands at this game right now, he's got to be coming back to Spurs, or sorry, us going there with them flying. You look at it on our side as well with Spence and Johnson going back there. It puts that element there, but Nuno has got a point to prove, hasn't he? He's got a score to settle. If we face it, Nuno got sacked for less than what Andrew's done this season. If we look at it seriously, results-wise, and whether you want to agree with that or not, that's you.
I would disagree on performance-wise, but I agree results-wise.
Okay, results. I mean, results-wise, Nuno lost his job for less.
Well, yeah, that's the point I've made. Like, I think the reason Ange's still in a job is the manner we've won games. Because if we had won games in the way we won games under Nuno, I don't think Ange would be here. But the fact that he's won games convincingly, I think that's why he's still here.
That's a fair point. And I also think another reason why he's still here as well is if Levy does sack him, it's another manager that he's failed to deliver on or has failed to back, as in giving him the length of time or giving him the quality of player that this stadium promised to deliver. There's so many elements or ingredients to put into this cocktail of what's going on at Spurs, isn't there? It's like, which ones do you pick at?
True. I think obviously Nuno only lasted 10 games. I think, to be fair, if I'm going to be fair to Nuno, obviously his tenure was a bit of a disaster, but you got to remember, we were an absolute mess at the time. Kane wanted to leave, right? He didn't want to be at Tottenham anymore. I think in the summer, he'd been given Brian Hill as a summer signing. He got Romero. I'm trying to remember who else we signed in that summer. Emerson. It just wasn't a great summer, was it? As per usual.
Say that at least.
Yeah. Players like Ndombele and Lo Celso there, like we weren't sure about them. I think the cloud of Kane was clearly covering a lot of that summer as well. And remember, we even started the season with Kane not playing. With Kane wasn't even in the team because he wanted out. And as much as performances were terrible, and let's be honest, they were terrible. There's no getting away from that. I think we went 3 games without a shot on target, and I think we were losing each game 3-0 as well. Kane looked a shadow of himself, and obviously, we sacked him, and Conte came in and performed a miracle to get us into top 4 and shook us, and we panicked. But I think his tenure, for me, probably says more about Tottenham than it did about him, I would say, in how things went so badly wrong. And I don't think, look, you got to give him credit because he went to Wolves. He was at Wolves and did brilliant, got them into Europe. Look at them now since he left. I think he did an excellent job with Wolves. And now look at the job he's done at Forest. So, he only got 10 games at Spurs. And as much as it was bad, I'm not disagreeing with that. And obviously, we signed a world-class manager in Conte and things drastically improved. Who knows what would have happened if we allowed him to stay, essentially, and try and get things right. I don't know if I'm not saying we should have. I'm saying it was the right decision to sack him, and I'm happy we did. But I'm saying his tenure only lasted 10 games, and at the end of the day, he won 5 and lost 5. So if that's your first 10 games in charge, I don't think it was the results that got him sacked, essentially is what I'm saying. I think it was more the manner of the performances is what got him sacked.
I'll also add to that, Sim, what would have happened if Nuno was allowed to bring his number 2 that he's had at every single club except for Tottenham Hotspur? Not saying he'd still be here not saying that it would be anything different and Ange Postecoglou wouldn't be here or anything, but he's had the same number 2 everywhere he goes, except for one club, and that club was Tottenham Hotspur. So we'll listen. Again, we'll see. We'll see. This debate you and I could have back and forth for a very, very long time. We could probably do it into the new year. But like you said, I actually do think, and the one thing I completely agree with you is Thursday's game is absolutely humongous for all aspects. Because it may, but the reason I say it's humongous as well, should we not get the 3 points going into that Wolves game, the atmosphere of that stadium, which has been atrocious, as you can verify and attest to from being there, it's not going to be in a nice place, is it? no matter what, whether it's Ange, whether it's owners, whether it's the players.
If we lose on Thursday and lose badly, then probably.
Sunday will be horrific. So let's just hope we can get the job done. Whether we do is another thing.
Completely agree. All right, that is your preview for the Forest game on Thursday night. Probably, in terms of the what we're doing from a league position, it's a massive, massive game, and we need to get all 3 points. And we need a reaction to the diabolical performance that was Liverpool on Sunday as well. So, big up to Brian. Thank you very much for your time on that one. And we're going to end the show reacting to some comments, and we've picked out a number of comments that you guys have made over the last 48 hours after the Liverpool game. We've got some comments reacting to Brian Daigle and about some of the stuff I've said as well. So we'll kick off with this first comment. This is from Chris9725. He says, "Let's face facts. Ange has got to go. Old boy fans are getting sentimental about him, but it's a joke. The man is not going to change. He says he isn't, and he is a farmer, and in the big boys league, he's out of his depth. Let's get a reality check, sack Ange, and move on with a proper big league manager who knows how to set up a balanced team and is tactically smart." Got to go. I mean, look, for me, I've said it all along. I think before this run of games where we've been in an injury crisis and we've really struggled, in terms of performance level, in terms of, how we were performing, you look at the underlying numbers, we were I think we were top of the league for goals, and in terms of the actual chances we were conceding, we were near the bottom of the league. So I don't think, for me, that shows me the tactics are unsustainable. Now, where we're at the moment, I do agree that it's unsustainable to keep playing the way we are with the injuries that we have, and that's a problem. And Ange needs to find a way to he needs to find a way to get points in the situation we are. And I don't think going 100 miles an hour with all the same players every week is the right thing to do. Now, hopefully, with some players coming back, that should alleviate some of the issues, but I just disagree. I think I'm not sitting here saying this is definitely the guy and he's going to bring glory back to Spurs. I'm just saying I'm willing to go ride through this storm and see what comes out the other side and see how we do during the season, because the way we play, there's no reason we can't be a good cup team. There's no reason we can't blow teams away in cup competitions, and because the way we play when we're on our day and we're on our game. And so I'm willing to give him that chance to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot in the first part that Chris has said, we've discussed throughout this stream. I'm going to touch on something you said, then I'm just going to talk a little bit about the last part, the bottom part that Chris has mentioned. You speak about weather in the storm, which is kind of where I'm at, like I said, because I don't have faith in what we'd do if we got rid of him. The question is, how big of a storm do we go through? When you say, right, this storm has gone from a storm to a tsunami, so to speak, like where it's become that big? And I'll harp on with you. What I want from my team, I don't think every season we have a divine right to win the league or be in top four, but I want us to compete. What I do, the most important thing for me, and I've said it for ages, is I want us to take the domestic cup seriously. I want us to genuinely take them seriously, and the Europa League. And by hook or by crook, we're in a semi-final.
And he's doing that. He is doing that, isn't he?
He's got there, yeah. It's getting to the semi-final is great. It's getting to the final.
No, what I'm saying, he's taking it seriously is my point.
Oh, no, he is taking, I mean, when you saw the Man U lineup compared to our lineup, yes, we're down to bare bones, so you could say, oh, well, he has to pick that team. But he has taken the cups seriously, unlike previous managers, and I can bring Pochettino into that as well. We're in a semi-final. It's about getting to that final. I look at it. I am an old school fan, like Chris said, the old boy fans. I've been supporting them since I was born in '79, but religiously watching them since '88. If someone had said to me in 1991, and to a lot of the people that are watching right now and will watch later, in 1991, when we're the first team to win the FA Cup 8 times, if someone said to you, you're not going to be in another final for 34 years, I think not even Spurs fans, football fans, around the country, around the world, would say Tottenham will be in a final way. But it's Tottenham's cup. It's I want to see us regularly competing. And if you see us regularly competing and regularly getting to semi-finals or regularly knocking on that top four, you'll hear Spurs fans being delighted. It's like, yeah, okay, we're just not there at the moment. But getting to the bottom part of what Chris was saying, sorry, I digress, Chris. This is the big problem is when we say a proper big league manager, is how do you categorize a big league manager? Because we're not going to get the Nagelsmanns. We're not going to get like the players, the managers in that bracket. They just won't come. Whether it be they want to bring their coaching staff and the ownership say no, or they just don't want to come because they've seen what's going on. I think we're looking at that middle bracket now. Like, would you even say Thomas Frank and all those Iriola are a middle bracket? But we're looking at going fishing in the pool smaller than us, not in the same league as us, so to speak. I honestly think, and I'm being genuinely serious when I say this, I think if we did sack Andrew Webber for Thomas Frank, I don't know if he'd come to us. I go back in the day when Martin O'Neill was manager of Leicester, and there was a big club that wanted him after they got sacked. I think it was even us when we sacked Graham, or no, it might not have been Graham. Whoever it was, and he was like, "No, I'm staying at Leicester. The fans love me. The owners love me. Everything's going well." I don't see us breaking the bank to get a big time manager in, and I don't think we can attract one right now. It's who do you attract to come here? Should Spurs pull the trigger on Ange? I just don't see who's available that would come here.
Yeah, I just think let's just wait and see where we are at the end of the season. And look, I think doing it at the end of the season anyway, if you are going to pull the trigger, is a better time to do it than mid-season, in my opinion, anyway. Because I don't think bringing a manager in right now in this injury crisis is going to recover the situation. Mark Kumo says, I find the criticism of recent transfers a bit weird. We've got so many players out who have been stuck in the club for years. Werner is questionable, but it's filling a gap until Jan Min-hyuk arrives and Odegaard returns. Besides that, we signed Solanke, Maddison, Johnson, Berg, Van Moor, Gray, Van der Ven, Dragic and Vicario. All have bags of potential. What would you say to that comment, Brian?
Big up to Marco, wherever you are. I cannot disagree with this strongly enough. I understand where he's saying this, and like I said at the beginning, I champion bringing in youngsters through.
But Solanke, Maddison, Van der Ven, Vicario, Johnson, they're not all just teenagers.
They're not all just teenagers, but what I'm getting at as well, those names don't strike fear into other football teams. Those teams, if you look at it, listen, I'm a massive fan of Solanke. I think he's going to turn out great. I think he's going to be a great buy. Obviously, no one is going to replace the player he's actually replacing. Obviously, we get a player in like him, and then we don't have the tools to provide him with the goals that he needs. You look at Brennan Johnson. Is he the right player? Does he walk into? Does another team want him? With these players here, you mentioned Moore, Gray, Dro. These players, I get all of these, but we need some elite players. And I'm not saying every single one of them, they need to be the elite, but we need some genuine quality, some genuine, real deal players. I think
Ange agrees, by the way. That's what Ange said in his recent press conference. He said the next signings we make have to be in that little sweet spot where they're a bit more experienced in their 20s, because at the moment that's what the group is lacking.
Completely. We have no. You look at it. He's mentioned. Listen, Jan Min-hyuk and Odegaard could turn out to be great. Could in a couple of years, but I don't want to hear anymore. They could be good in a couple of years. I want to say, oh my God, look at this player we just brought in. What a couple of years he's just had. Not he needs 2 years to get there. I want a player that comes in and immediately walks into that first team. Walks in as in on merit. My God, I improved this first team dramatically, or I improved this team immediately. Not in a couple of years, I'm going to improve this team. And that's what we're sorely lacking.
Yeah, I think we need a bit more in the group, just a bit more of experience. But I like the fact that we've signed young players because I think we needed to, because I think we were lacking that for a while. Good young players that we saw a pathway and a future for. But maybe it's I think at the moment I look at the group and could we do with one or two players of like maybe even like of Van der Ven's age or even like of Bentancur's age, but just a bit in your mid-20s where they're ready to go. I think so, especially in the forward line. We just need another. I think we need more faces in there. Michael FY6UX says Sim is really starting to piss me off. I swear he is a spokesperson for Levy. Excuse after excuse. Ben is more in line with supporters with his views. I mean, I don't know what I've said. Look, as I've said so many times, I've got no love for this board. I don't think I don't agree with a lot of what they've done. I'm not a fan of the board, to be honest. I think they do things with the balance sheet and the marketing at the forefront, rather than the football club at the forefront of the club, of the bit. Like, they run it as a business and all these kind of things. They don't treat football as the utmost priority, and I completely agree with all of that. My only point is, the only way, if they're going to treat it like they are, right, which, look, I've accepted at this point, it's been 20 years, they're not going to change, right? I don't see Tottenham or under Levy changing, right, the way they're going about things. So the only way that we're going to have a shot of catching up to teams acting in that way is by basically having very, very smart recruitment and gambling on young players and trying to catch up in that way, essentially, because we're not going to do it by outspending or spending the money required to catch up in that way. We're not going to spend the money, which is going to take hundreds of millions of pounds to catch up by spending. If we're not going to do that, then the only way to do it is by investing in youth, buying young players, and buying on potential and hoping they grow into being special players. And that's what we're trying to do. And I can accept that if that's the route you're going down, but just stick to it and don't abandon it midway through when things start to look like they're going wrong, because that's what a lot of people say. So for me, that's all I've said. If you're going to do that, then do it and stick to it and fully go into that, right? And go into that way of doing it. And I'll go with it. But they were doing a halfway house under Mourinho and Conte, where they're acting like a big club but weren't spending the money required to doing it, and also not investing in youth. So once it all fell flat, we were in an absolute mess. So I hated that, right? But now what we're doing is, we've got a manager who's playing attacking football, giving him young players to work with and grow and hopefully help them develop into good players. And that's the only way we've got. I'm not saying it's guaranteed to work. I'm not saying I'm not saying what they're doing is definitely going to work. But I'm saying the way with the club is run, that's the best shot of working, in my opinion. So that's the way they're going it. So I'm willing to go with that, and I'm not saying I'm happy with where we are, but that's all I'm saying. That's the only way we're going to have a shot of catching up with them, is if we do it this way, and it's going to take time. What you don't spend in money, you have to invest in time, and that's all we have. That's the only way I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
What I'll say to this, Stephen, is I think. I speak for myself when I say this. I can't speak for other Spurs fans. If we were going down Project Youth, and this was the way, and Spurs said, right, listen, next couple of years, we are playing the youngsters. We are bleeding them through. We are playing them. They will get regular game time, and there may be a few bumps in the road, but we are doing this and we're sticking to this. And then we saw your Archie Grays, your Bergvales, your Moores, your Lankshire's, your so on and so on, getting regular game time. You'd be like, okay, I understand what we're doing here. We've said we're going Project Youth. We're going to bleed these youngsters through. We're going to play them constantly, give them the experience. Then you'd understand it. But we don't. We go half-hearted at it and play them out of position and whatever. But the biggest thing I have with this is, and I always use Liverpool here, and I'm not going to use the Coutinho, Van Dijk, Alisson. There's a very popular North American term used here in sports where they say you're either rebuilding or you're reloading. Now, we are constantly rebuilding. Liverpool, and I'm going to use the example of their front line, when they had Firmino, Salah, Mane, rather than rebuilding, they bring in a Nunes, a Jota, a Diaz, a Gapco. They are regularly reloading and bringing in pure quality around that team, so they can rotate. They can do it. Other teams do it where there's genuine quality. Where they strengthen at a position of strength. They don't strengthen at a position of weakness. We are constantly rebuilding. If you could, I can't remember the last player that we reloaded. And I'll ask that question if you have appeal to put in the comments. I can't remember the last time Tottenham Hotspur had a player of a high standard that we had we reloaded. We didn't rebuild and go, right, this one is going to be the one for the next couple of years. I can't remember the last time Tottenham started reloading. We're constantly rebuilding.
I don't disagree with any of that, and I agree. The way we've managed the footballing side over the last however long has been horrendous. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying I'm willing to go with the young players that we're going with at the moment, because I understand and I've accepted. Not accepted, but I've given up trying to change the fact that we're not going to spend the money, right? That we need. So that's my only point. That's why I'm not angry that we're buying all the young players, because that's the only way we're going to do it. Is by buying these young players. Even people like Van de Ven, like they're young, but like they're not even that experienced. He only had one season in the Bundesliga. Even like Vicario. He was only number one at Empoli in the Serie A for a couple of years before we signed him. So even him, he's not even that experienced. So even a Doggy as well. It's the second season in the Prem. Sarr. See, these are like, we look at Doggy and Sarr, and they're like big parts of our teams, and they're not even that experienced. So they're going to take. It's all going to take time. That's what I'm saying. And what you don't spend in money, you have to invest in time, and that's kind of what I think we're trying to do. And you know, if that's what we're trying to do, then do it. That's all I'm saying. And you know, I'm not saying it's the right thing, huh?
I personally think people would invest in time if this club said, right, Project Youth is the way we're going, and you're going to see these players constantly. Then it'll be like, right, okay, I understand it. There's a pathway. There's an understanding. There's a vision, but there isn't, and that's why I think people get like you said. I agree with you to some extent with, if you're not going to invest in money, invest in time. But then the club should relay that. They're like, listen, we're going through a sticky patch. We are going to play these youth players. We do have all the faith in them. They need to get the experience. Bear with us. We're going to try and add a couple of quality additions here and there. But for the next couple of seasons, it's going to be a slow burner whilst we integrate this youth. Then I think a lot more Spurs fans are more acceptant and understand that this is what we're doing. But we don't do this. We don't communicate. We don't plan.
All right. Next one we're going to look at is Nicola Polito 86. It says, I think it was in response to me saying, why is everyone losing their minds over the game? She says, maybe the fact we conceded 6 goals at home, even though it should have been 7 or 8. No matter who you are, you can't be conceding 6 goals at home. Conceding 6 goals at home is unacceptable at any level. If you have injuries to your first 11 centre-back pairing, you don't play stupid high line against Liverpool because you're asking for trouble. Ange needs to adapt to certain situations because you can't play gung-ho against every opponent. Ange needs to learn to respect his opposition, otherwise he won't remain manager for long. Look, I don't disagree in terms of if we're looking at getting the result in that game, playing the way we did was never going to work. I don't think, to be honest, any way of playing though. I don't think Look, the people thinking, okay, we're going to play low block, right? And we're going to ask Gray and Dragoshin to defend in a low block, and we're going to win that way. Like, we're not going to win that way. And also, if you actually look at the first 2 goals we conceded, it wasn't because we were gung-ho. It wasn't because we were too attacking. Look at the positions of our players when we conceded our first 2 goals. Trent had space on the right-hand side, right, to cross it, but it wasn't because Son and Spence were caught up the pitch. That wasn't why he had space. They were there, but they didn't get no close to him. They didn't. In fact, you could argue it's because they weren't being more aggressive against him is why. And as well, Gray and Dragoshin were in the box, right? And they were there in a good position. It wasn't because they were playing a high line that Diaz beat them in the air. He just got the run on them, and it was a quality ball from Trent. But it was nothing to do with Tottenham playing a high line. You look at the second goal. Again, We had players in the box, but Gray just got bullied by Szoboszlai. You think if we play a low block and we're inviting even more pressure onto us, we're inviting even more crosses, there's not even a more likelihood that happens against Gray? Like, I just don't think it was because of our high line that we got battered on Sunday.
All I will say is this, and I do agree with Nicola on this, and Nicola's a great supporter of a lot of channels, so big up to Nicola. What I would say is when it comes to the Liverpool game, the second half, if you had the option, would you have liked to have seen Spurs drop deeper to stop everything happening? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, but we're losing 3-1.
No, at that point it was 4-1. 3-1 at half time, but I'm saying when at the end of the second half, yes, we were trying to get the goals back, but the game was done. We all knew we weren't going to come back.
Right, but so you're saying at 4-1 we should drop deeper. That's what you're
saying. I'm saying forget the scoreline. What I'm saying is when you see them just playing one ball over the top all the time, at any point, would you not like to see a manager say, do you know what? This is a little bit too easy.
But my point is, in the first 2 goals we were deeper and they scored 2 goals.
First, listen, for me, the first goal, before we go any further, forget the header. Spurs are a major fault because as soon as Trent Alexander gets the football, Trent Alexander-Arnold, who is known up and down the Premier League, around the world, for his excellent delivery, he is like a quarterback with that right foot of his.
Yeah.
He should never, ever, ever, ever have that time and space. You could have had Van der Ven and Romero. My
point is, Son and Spence were not ahead of him; they were behind him. They were not caught up the pitch. It wasn't because we were gung ho is why he had space. Is my point.
No, Simeon, that part I completely agree with you. Where I'm talking about is I think I want to see some flexibility, and like Nicola said, some respect for the opposition and realise what they're saying. And like you said again, the high line. Like you said, I agree with what you're saying with the first 2 goals. But you can't keep doing this game in, game out when we're playing that kind of quality.
My point is we weren't playing that high line for the first bit of the game. That's not why we got caught out. We probably I think we went more aggressive after we conceded 2 goals, and then we got a goal back, and then we tried to basically get back in the game. And yeah, probably we should have seen it out until half time instead of going gung ho for that last 5 minutes, which we did. I'll concede that, which is why we conceded a third, right? And then 3-1 at half time. We're like, second half, we're going to go for it. We conceded 4 and 5, right? But then we also scored 2, and that probably doesn't happen if we just drop back. But I don't think once we went 3-1, I don't think Andrew's ever going to just drop back and just do damage limitation. He's just going to try and get back in the game and go for it. And look, how many times under Conte, right, did we say if when we're losing, I'd rather go for it and lose 2 and 3-0 than just try to just sit back and lose 1-0 and not even try and have a go. And that's what he did. And we did get 2 goals. We ended up getting battered. I'm not saying that we defended well. It wasn't a shit show. It was. But my point is, I don't think it was because the fact we went gung ho is why we lost in general. It was why we lost so badly. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yep. Why we lost 6-3 is because we went gung ho, but why we were 2-0 down is not because we were gung ho.
No, that I agree. That I agree. This is the thing. It's like literally we're at a point now where every single goal we blame the high line, which it isn't. You can look at a lot of goals where it is the problem, but this game, the first 2, I agree with you. But the main part I'm getting from Nicola as well is we do need to pay a bit more respect to other teams. But like you said, mate, maybe that's just because I want to see a bit of variation. Just maybe that's the selfish part of me. What I'm seeing and the way I see things, as opposed to the way things should be or whatever. We like. I think you and I agree in a large part on this and disagree in small part.
All right, can we jump to Jason Stanley, because Brian's running out of time and I want to get him to react to some of his comments. So
here we go.
So Jason Stanley 775 says, sorry Brian, despite the injuries he did not adjust his formation and tactics to suit the team we were playing and continued with suicidal plan. a plan only approach, and we got easily ripped apart as we have with full teams fit to it's not making much sense. This a fit to lot on Ange. All commentators saying that too. Pardew said, "If I'm a defender at Spurs, I'm telling Ange I'm not playing." I don't know what you said in your post-match interview that contradicted that. He said we had suicidal tactics on the day and we were ripped apart. And he said, "Sorry, Brian." Could you say something that contradicted that?
Do you know what? I will say, and people will know this, when it's immediately after games, I am a very, very passionate fan. I am a very outspoken fan, and I will shoot from the hip. Sometimes when I get home or I've watched Match Today and I re-look at games, I'm like, well, do you know what? I might have said that wrong. But it's the heat of the moment. Like today, I'll come on a show with you and be as calm as anything, and we can discuss it. I won't lose my mind. I won't be going nuts. But after performances, it's very raw for me, very emotional. And I do take this very, very seriously, like we all do. I'm no special person or whatever. He is right. Jason in this is right. Sometimes I should, and he's right. I can't remember precisely what I said to warrant this comment, but I look back at it and I agree with him probably more than what I actually said. I think we are getting ripped apart by teams, and listen. There's loads of things you can see when we have had a full team. We've had this. We're pretty full against Brighton, weren't we? And we're brilliant in the first half and capitulated. Destiny, you can see, needed to come off. I'll say it now in front of everyone. I sometimes shoot from the hip and I'm very emotional. And Simeon, you and I always joke about, am I speaking from my head or my heart? And a lot of the time I will say after games, and I apologise if it offends people or whatever, I speak from my heart. I speak from my heart because you got to remember as well, with me, I get up at stupid o'clock in the morning to get to a pub to watch it. I'm not going, obviously I can't go to the games. I won't go to home games because of my stance on Levy. And I wake up at stupid hours to get to go support my team, to watch these things, and it pisses me off. And it pisses me off that managers aren't backed. It pisses me off that players sometimes don't have the games that they should be doing. It pisses me off that there's no change and there's no rotation. Do you know what? I think, and I'm trying to recall what I said, but knowing what I probably said, I think Jason may be right here. I'm going to agree with Jason.
Can we go to Squazen Frozen 61645? We'll bring this comment up. It says, "The thing I hate most is that people like Brian are becoming a minority in our fan base. People that actually care about football are in the decline in this fan base, and the stadium is full of corporate shills, tourists and rival fans in the home end all the effing time. The club need to do something about it, because how easy it is for rivals to get tickets. Our club is a joke." Well, it's people like you not coming to home games, Brian. That's the problem.
Well, you know what it is as well. Is listen, let's address international fans. I now consider myself an international fan for obvious reasons, living in Toronto. Has this new stadium given access to a load of fans from around the world to get into this stadium? Yes, and rightfully so. Yes, and rightfully so. Anyone who supports Tottenham, whether it be here in Canada, Argentina, Mexico, Japan, Korea, wherever it is, they're all Spurs fans. Where the problem is, and I think we're clearly seeing this, is do I think that's having an impact on the atmosphere per se? Not so much just the international fans. I think the Spurs handled the South Stand, who went into the South Stand. It was an attraction more than, right, let's get the hostile fans in there, the Park Lane, the Shelf, that will really add noise into that ground. The atmosphere is a bit dead. Is that just down to the international fans getting in there? I don't think so. I went nuts when I spoke to Ben and Amir on this Liverpool game, my video, and I went on Savage yesterday and I went mad at the match day going fan base. People in all the chats, including your chat, Tottenham Away's chat, my chats, any chats of any chat, Last Word on Spurs, all the channels that say, yeah, I'm going to be at the protest, I'm going to go there, it's time to do it, let's get change. And all these people in the chat, where were you? All these people in the chats that go, I want Ange out, he's got to go, he's got to go. Well, why aren't you singing that? Not that I endorse that, but why are you not singing, you're getting sacked in the morning. People like to speak a lot on social media or in chats on channels, but when push comes to shove, people will walk the walk. Sorry, talk the talk, but won't walk the walk. Am I old school when it comes to I care about on the pitch? I don't go into the financials and the profits and this. How anyone is endorsing this Squid Games? Oh yeah, it's brilliant for the club. Netflix, woohoo! Yeah, brilliant. It's another. It sickens me.
Oh, actually,
Because, yeah.
on that point, let me bring in the next comment, and this will be the last comment you react to, because it goes into what you just said. It says, I really don't understand Daigle going on about our commercial deals. We're servicing a debt on £1 billion stadium, and those deals goes towards that and the team. Levy made some mistakes, but he's supported multiple managers with hundreds of millions in multiple transfer windows. We've somehow managed to waste money on lots of absolute shit players. Liverpool bought Alisson and Van Dijk and Salah and made a team. We bought Sanchez, Lo Celso and Ndombele for the same money, for example.
Yeah, listen, when I went, like I said, I openly admit I don't confess to be like Sean Butler when it comes to the finances, where I personally, when there's something financial going on at Spurs, the very first person I look for is Sean Butler. Is because his breakdowns, whether you agree with him or not, his breakdowns are incredible. He understands the finances of it. I never have, to that extent. So I don't. Daniel Levy did that interview. Every penny goes back into supporting the first club, goes into making the first team better. I understand we're servicing the debt, but the debt is at a very, very low interest, which he did, which I'll give credit to Daniel Levy for. He got it at a very, very, very low interest. Because I will credit him where I see there's credit to be given. I will give it to him. Getting that done over a very, very low interest rate over years so it can improve the spending on Spurs. Well, that hasn't happened. These commercial deals, all these commercial deals coming in, still reflected on the first team. All the season, the match day going fan or the travelling fan that have memberships, everything to do with the fan spending money at the club has gone up. But the quality of player and the wage bill has gone down. We know we have the money to spend. We know. Don't get me wrong. I don't think we're going to be Manchester City and buy £100 million players, or two of them in one window. Or do you remember when Pep, when he needed to sort out his back four, and he bought Kyle Walker? He just splurged like 200 million. I don't expect that. I don't expect. People seem to think. People like me think that the answer to this is go out and buy £250 million players and everything's done. No, I understand that's not it. But you can't. They tried to use COVID. Everyone had COVID. We're 5 years out of COVID now. We're 5 years into this stadium. This stadium has been churning money for 5 years. Events, concerts, F1, go-kart. It just goes on and on and on. And we keep getting told, wait for a couple of years and then we'll go. Well, I heard that 4 years ago. But then 4 years ago, I was told, wait 2 years ago. Wait until two. I've been here, done that. I've got the T-shirt. I do understand the debt needs to be paid. But people believing that there isn't money to spend on quality rather than quantity, I just don't understand why people think that. But like I said, I don't confess to be the finance king. I wish that stadium was used every single day, other than match days. I want that stadium churning money as much as humanly possible. 50 Cent, to be on whoever you want, whatever fight you want, whatever event you want. But let me see that reflect on the quality of player comes in. Not, the hotel's coming. Oh, we announced we've got a new beer partnership. We've got a new this partnership. We've got a new furniture partnership. We've got a new jewellery partnership. We've got a new. Okay, brilliant. Well done. Money's coming into this club. Well, reflect it on the team. Reflect it with quality, not quantity.
All right, Brian, appreciate your time as always. That's all we got time for. I know you got to go, so appreciate you coming on and giving your time for the stream. That was him reacting to comments left on his fan cam on the weekend. But look, this is the end of the show. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Massive game on Thursday, so big up to everyone who's tuning in, and I want to say once again, I wish everyone watching a Merry Christmas, and hopefully everyone has a happy hopefully everyone spends time with the family. It's important to do at this time of year. Everyone gets what they wish for in the presents. And look, appreciate everyone giving their time, tuning in. I'll see you back on Thursday for the watch long. There'll be clips scheduled out for tomorrow as well. But big up everyone watching the stream today. We'll see you all very, very soon. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.